we have a crisis in the world, tremendous crisis, and also crisis in our consciousness, in us. I see the urgency of change, radical revolution, mutation in the mind. I see it. It is necessary. There is complete quietness of the mind, and that which is silent has vast space. Only then that which is nameless comes into being.
This is Urgency of Change, the Krishnamurti podcast. Thinking is mechanical. Thinking can never be free. It can be reasonable, sane, and logical, but it can never be free. Hello and welcome to episode 270 of Urgency of Change. Each episode of the Krishnamurti podcast is based on a significant theme of his talks. Extracts have been carefully selected to represent Krishnamurti's different approaches to these universal and timeless topics. This episode's theme is thinking. Upcoming themes are sensitivity, the scientific and religious mind, and organizations. This is a podcast from Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. Please visit the official YouTube channel for hundreds of full-length video and audio recordings of Krishnamurti's talks and discussions. In addition, the Foundation's own channel features a large selection of shorter clips. You can also find our regular Krishnamurti quotes and videos on Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Krishnamurti Foundation Trust. If you enjoyed the podcast, please leave a review or rating on your podcast app. This episode on thinking has 3 sections. This first extract is from Krishnamurti's first talk at Rajghat in 1985 and is titled, What is Thinking?
What is thinking? Every human being in the world, everyone from the most ignorant, most crude, from the very, very small person in a little village, and to the most highly sophisticated scientist, they have something in common. Haven't you noticed? Thinking. They think, the villager, never read anything, never been to a school, college, university, but probably most of you here are or have been educated, right? So you think and the villager thinks, right? The man who sits in the Himalayas by himself, he also thinks. So every human being in the world thinks, right? And this thinking has been right from the beginning of time. So we must ask the first question, as we're going to ask several questions, what is thinking? What is it that you think about? And what is it that you think about? What is thinking? Right? Will you answer that question first? Not from books, right? Not from some, what Gita or the Upanishads or the Bible or Quran says. What is thinking? So, when you go to college, school, right up to the university, and you're a bureaucrat, or a chief minister or prime minister, or the lowest of the villages, they've all something in common. Apart from many other things which we'll go into, what is thinking? We live by thinking. Our daily action is based on thinking. Unless we question, solve, and hold to it, find out. Whether you're a physicist or a laborer or any kind of human being on this earth, we all think. You may think one way, and another may think another way, but you're still thinking. Yeah? So what is that? Can you think if you have no memory? If you cannot think backwards and forwards, what you will do tomorrow or the next hour, or what you have done yesterday or this morning, you can think forward and backward. That's called technologically in the computer world architecture. And the computers can do this. So you must find out together, not Indian way of thinking and European way of thinking. I don't know if you follow what the speaker is saying. Oriental way of thinking, which is the Buddhist, the Hindu, the Muslim, the Christian, and all the sects. Right? So what is thinking? Tell me, please. What is thinking? What do you think? Are you stumped? No answer? You will discuss with me tomorrow, I believe, or day after tomorrow. We're going to have a dialogue together. Unless you really understand the process of thinking, unless you really understand it, our life is always going to be very, very limited. So we must very deeply, seriously, as a physicist, as a scientist examines, we must examine very, very, very closely this whole process of thinking, which shapes our life. Man has created God by his thinking. God has not created man. It must be a very, very poor God to created these human beings who are fighting each other perpetually. It must be rather silly old God. So, what is thinking? And why have we made problems of it? Right? We have problems about thinking. So we also must examine closely why we have problems. You understand? Are we together in this little bit? At least following each other? Or are you all gone to sleep? So first, why have we problems in our life? What is a problem? We have plenty of them. Political problems, financial problems, economic problems, the problems of one religion against the other, the problems of, you understand? Haven't you got problems by the thousand? What is a problem? And the meaning of that word, problem, what does that mean? The meaning, according to the dictionary, it means something thrown at you, a challenge, something you've got to look at, face. That's what a problem means, right? Are we together in this, or am I talking to myself? So first, the word problem means something thrown at you. You can't dodge it. You can't run away from it. You can't suppress it. It's there, like a sore thumb. Why is it that all our life, from the moment we are born till we die, have problems about death, about fear, about 100 things? Right? Are you asking this question? Or am I merely asking it for you? You don't seem to react to all this. From the moment you are born, after a while, after several years, you go to school. There you have to read, write. That becomes a problem to the child, right? And later on he has learned mathematics for that. And that becomes a problem. And the mother says, don't do this, don't do that. That becomes a problem. Right? So from very childhood, we are bred in problems. Right? Am I saying something strange? Huh? You all look so damn serious. I'm sorry to use that word, but you do look very serious. Probably only this morning, anyhow, that's all right. So from childhood, we are cultivate and live in problems. Our brain is conditioned in problems. It's never free from problems. As you grow, become adolescent, sex, how to earn money, what to do, follow society or not, revolt or not. And at the end you yield to society, to environment. So all this becomes a problem. Every politician in the world solves one problem and thereby creates the other problems. Haven't you noticed all this? So, human brain, what is inside the skull, itself has a problem. You understand? So, can the brain ever be free of problems to solve problems? You understand my question? If the brain is not free of problems, then how can it solve any problem? You understand? This is logical, right? So can the brain, your brain, that which is within the skull, which carries memories, I won't go into all the details of it, which has acquired tremendous knowledge, that brain has been nurtured, educated to have problems, right? So we're asking now, your brain, can it ever be free of problems first? And then it can solve problems. It's logical, right? So, can you be free of problems first? Or is that impossible? You understand my question? Our brain is conditioned as Hindus and the various divisions in Hinduism. The brain is conditioned as a Buddhist, as a monk. The brain is conditioned in the various narrow religions. The brain is conditioned by specialization. Oh Lord, aren't you interested in all this? I'm asking myself, looking at you, aren't you interested in all this? Or is it the habit of going to a meeting and listening and saying, yes, quite right, quite right. You're a funny people, all right. So let's begin. Our brain is conditioned by environment in which we live, by your education, by your religion, by your poverty or richness. You have taken vows as monks. I don't know why, but you have taken them. And it becomes a torture, a problem. So our brains are extraordinarily conditioned. As a businessman, as a housekeeper, and so on. And from that narrow point of view, we look at the world. So we have to go into this question, not only having problems, but also what is thinking. Why do you think at all? Is there a different way of action? Is there a different manner of approach to life, to the daily living, that doesn't require thinking at all? You don't know this. So first, we'll have to look very closely together, Not I'm explaining, you accept. That'd be silly. But together find out for ourselves. And then act. Not say yes, quite right. But act. So we're going to go into that. What is thinking? Don't you think? Otherwise you won't be here. You made arrangements to come here at a certain time, and you have made also arrangements to go back. That is thinking. Thinking philosophically. Philosophy means the love of truth, the love of life. Not passing some exam in a university. So let us find out together what is thinking. If you had no memory of yesterday or what will happen tomorrow, no memory at all of any kind, would you think? You understand? Oh, come on, sir. Would you think and act thereby if you had no memory? Of course not. What are you hesitating about? You can't think if you have no memory. Right? So what is memory? Now you're stopped. What is memory? You did something yesterday, and that what you did is registered in the brain, which becomes the memory, and according to the memory, you think and act. Right? So, what is memory? How does it come about? You remember somebody flattering you. You remember somebody hurting you, saying ugly things about you, or flattering you, because you've written a book. So you remember memory. That is, memory is the outcome of knowledge, right? Right? Oh Lord. That is, you insulted me. It is registered on the brain as a memory. That insult or flattery, whatever it is registered, which becomes the memory. That is, the knowledge of that incident becomes memory. I have an accident in a car. That accident is registered in the brain, and therefore in the brain cells, and then it says, yes, that's memory. I've had an accident, I must drive carefully. Right? So, out of knowledge comes memory. Right? Yeah? From memory, thought. Now, what is knowledge? We said rather difficult. We all accumulate knowledge. The great scholars, great professors, scientists acquire tremendous knowledge. You understand? So what is knowledge? How does it come about to have knowledge? God. Haven't you thought about all this? Looked at all this? Knowledge comes when there is experience. Right? You have an accident in a car, that becomes the accident. That's an experience, right? Right? From that experience you have knowledge. And from that knowledge you have memory. From memory you have thought. Right? Be careful, don't agree yet or disagree. I'm going to pull the rug under your feet. So, what is experience? Which is that incident, right? Accident in a car, which is registered in the brain as knowledge, right? And so on. Knowledge, experience, knowledge, memory, thought. Clear? This is logical. Not my way of looking at it or your way of looking at it. So, all experience, whether it's God's experience or your experience, is limited. Yes? Right? Would you agree? Would you see that? All experience. Because you look at it, the scientists are adding every day more and more and more. Right? That which is added to is always limited. Right? Don't agree. Look at it, look at it. I know little and I must know more. You are adding, right? That which you add to must be limited. Oh Lord, right? So, experience is always limited. Your experience of God, I don't know what that means, but it doesn't matter. Your experience of something is always limited. Well, there's something more to be added. So, experience is limited, knowledge is limited, forever, not just future knowledge, it's always limited. Therefore, memory is limited, and so thought is limited. Right? Thought is limited. And where there is limitation, there is division. Right? As the Sikh, the Hindu, the Buddhist, the Muslim, the Christian, the Democratic Party, Republican Party, Communist Party. You understand? They're all based on thought. Therefore, all the governments are limited. All your activities limited. Whether you think most abstractly or try to be very noble, it's still thinking, right? So from that limited quality of thinking, and thinking is always limited, our actions are limited, right? Now, from that you begin to inquire very carefully, can thought have its right place and has no other place at all? You understand my question? No, Lord, don't go to sleep, please. I need thought to come here. I have to get up at a certain time, all the rest of it. You had to. You had to think there. So is there an action which is free of limitation? You think it out a minute, I give you. Think it out. Look at it carefully. That is, thinking being limited, we have reduced the whole universe into a very small affair. You understand? We made our life into such a small affair. I think I must be this, I must not be that, I must have power, I mustn't. You follow? We have reduced the enormous quality of life into a very small, petty little affair. Right? So, is it possible to be free of thought? Which means I must think to come here. If I'm a bureaucrat, I must think in terms of bureaucracy. If I've got to go to the factory and turn the screw, I must have certain knowledge. Why should I have knowledge about myself? All you people. You understand my question? Higher self, lower self, and all that stuff. Why should I have knowledge about it? It's very simple. I'm self-interested. I'm only concerned with myself, actually. We pretend to be brotherhood, we may talk about peace, we may do every kind of verbal exchange and play words with. But we're always self-centered, right? So from that arises the question, can this self-centeredness, which is essentially deep selfishness, can there be a change at all? You understand? Can we be utterly selfless? Also, so we have to inquire, what is the self? Right, sir? What are you, apart from your name and profession, and your vows and following some guru or that or that? What are you? Tell me. Apart from your profession, apart from your name, or put it the other way, are you your name? Are you your profession? Or are you part of the community? Or are you part of the tradition? Hindu. That's a tradition, a name. So, what are you? Don't repeat what Gita says, Upanishad says, or somebody says. That's futile. Actually, what are you? God, what's the matter with all of you? Is this first time that this question has been put to you? What am I? Aren't you fear? Aren't you your name? Aren't you your body? Aren't you what you think you are? The image you have built about yourself. Aren't you what that? Aren't you your anger? Or you say, no, anger is separate from me. Come on, sir. Aren't you your fears, your ambitions, your greed, your competition, your uncertainty, your confusion, your pain, your sorrow? Aren't you all that? Aren't you the guru you follow with some medallion and all kind of stuff you put around your neck? So when you identify yourself with that, that's your fear, your pleasure, your pain, your sorrow, your affection, your rudeness, all that. Aren't you all that? Or are you something high up? Super self, super consciousness. If you say you're super consciousness, higher self, that's also part of thinking. Therefore, what you as call higher self is still very small.
The second extract is from the first talk in Saanen 1982 and is titled, Is Thinking Individual?
If my consciousness, with all its content, is similar to yours, right? Whether you live in Switzerland, or in America, or in India, or wherever you are, as a human being, your consciousness has the same movement of conflict, of misery. So are you an individual? Are you separate from me? Or at the depth we are similar? The waters of a great river has ripples on the top, and we are concerned about the ripples, building a bank, this and that, controlling it. But at the depth we are all the same water. Is that so or not? You have to inquire, go into it, put yourself. Evolution, which is the process of time, has been concerned at the peripheral level, at the outside level. Better doctors, better health, keeping young, you follow? And inwardly, the pot is boiling. It's not your pot or my pot. Right? Is this a fact or just an idea, an intellectual concept which you accept? Please see this deep significance of this. If you and I, living in India, living in America or Russia, our consciousness is the same as yours, right? Then where is their isolation? At the peripheral level, yes, because you're taller, shorter. So, if that is so, that you are essentially, deeply humanity, not Mr. Smith by himself. Or Mr. Calatrone or Craniolini by himself. So, if my consciousness is the common ground on which all the human beings stand, then I am the entire humanity. That's logical. That's a fact. My thinking, which I have considered a separate mind, my thinking is common to all mankind thinking. They may think in one way. Must be clear on this too. We said consciousness is similar. The variety, the outward appearances are different. The peripheral activity is different. But at the core, we are all alike. Therefore, I am humanity, not an idea, actual fact, because I've worked at it, discovered it. It's mine. Not mine, I've found it. You have to find it yourself, not accept what some other silly man says. The speaker may be totally wrong, trying to hypnotize you to something which is non-fact. You have to go into it, find out. Then, if I see that I am humanity, then it means I am the world and the world is me. Therefore, I don't belong to any group, to any guru, to any religion, to no nationality. I have no religion. Religion in the orthodox sense of that word. Are you like that? Moment you say, my consciousness is the rest of mankind, you have dropped away the entire tradition of the past. Right? So then, if you are the world, and the world is you, and you are the whole of humanity in consciousness, not in your capacity as a carpenter, technician, or a musician, or a surgeon. Then what is your responsibility to the rest of mankind? You understand? I am mankind. I am the world. But what is my responsibility to the world? I don't say I'm mankind. My consciousness is like yours and just remain there. You follow? I wonder if you understand. May I go on? We've talked for an hour. May I go on? You are going on with yourself, not with the speaker. How am I seeing the truth of all this? Not as an idea, as a conclusion, as an ideological utopian concept, but an actual fact. As factual as we are sitting in this hot tent. Then, what am I to do? What is my action? Not in relationship to the world, because I'm the world. I don't know if you understand all this. What is my activity which will not be related to the peripheral activity? You understand? I must go on being a carpenter. I must go on being a surgeon or a professor. I have to do it as long as I live in this terrible world. But inwardly, psychologically, which is far more important, because the psyche always overcomes the outer, right? Like when the communists started out with their revolution, they said, no soldiers, equality. We were all excited at that time. And now look what is happening. I don't have to go into all that, you know it. So what is my activity? Not in relationship to the world. Please understand this deeply. Activity in myself. In myself is the rest of mankind. Which is what I'm asking, what is the activity of my consciousness? You understand? Not in relationship with you. We'll come to that a little later. What is my relation to politics, to war? We'll come to that later. But what is my activity when I understand I am the world? My consciousness with its content is like the rest of mankind. Right? So where do I begin? You understand my question? Where do I begin? Out there or in there? In there I mean psychologically, not some kind of illusory inward, actually inward. So I inquire, what am I to do? Is my thinking mine? Right? Or is thinking common? You understand? Thinking, not thinking about something. Thinking about God. Thinking about my achievement. The very act of thinking is that individual, yours and mine separate. No, don't please go into it carefully. Apparently, thinking is common to all mankind, right? They think. They may find a lot of excuses for thinking. But now, tradition says it's individual thinking. Again, is that so? Is your thinking separate from my thinking? You may want a better car. I may want a better shirt. But thinking is the same. Right? Right? You're doubtful? Don't accept what I'm saying. Is thinking separate from my thinking? Or thinking is common? Then if it's common, what is thinking? We thought, our tradition says your thinking is separate from my thinking. Nobody has inquired into the question of thinking. Right? So we are now saying thinking is common to all mankind. Because thinking is born out of knowledge, experience, memory. Right? This happens to the most humble village and man, and to the greatest philosopher. Right? So thinking is common to all mankind. It's not my thinking and your thinking separate. So thinking and consciousness are the same. Because all the content of my consciousness is the product of my thinking. I think I'm separate. So my content of my consciousness is the conflict, the loneliness, the despair, the anxiety, suffering. I must resolve it. So, we have discovered for yourself, I'm not telling you, that consciousness with its content is the movement of thought. Right? Of course, it's logical. So, I see all this. Where shall I begin? At the periphery or at the center? We have been educated to work along the peripheral lines. And we see if we work along the peripheral lines, there is no radical change at all. So, I have to begin at the very center, looking at the very center and see its activity. Right? Are we clear on this? Not how am I to get a job. I can't tell you, I'm afraid. How to stop the war? Impossible. They're all idiots. How to solve the economic problem? It is possible only when there are no nationalities, no economic divisions. All these peripheral problems can be solved when there is a global outlook. Not nationalistic outlook, which is isolated, conditioned outlook. It's only when we say we're all humanity, we're all one, life is sacred. Not my life and your life. To seeing all that, where shall I begin? I won't begin there, at the peripheral level. So I'm beginning to inquire, is my thinking fragmentary? You understand? Is my activity fragmentary, inwardly? I may say outwardly I'm the word, but inwardly, is my activity fragmentary, broken up? Is that so? So I begin there. You understand? Is it possible to find out a way of living which is whole, not fragmented? I don't say there is or there is not. I want to find out, inquire, question, doubt. Never accept any conclusion I may come to even. So, what is it that makes life, breaks up life, the movement of living? You understand? What is it that breaks it up? As mine, yours, and all the rest of it. Please inquire, what is it? Don't reduce it to one word. It's very complex. Why do I live a broken up life, so divisive, you understand, so fragmented, so separate, broken up? Why? What makes my life that way? You've got plenty of days to think it over. Studying, not accepting, looking, exercising your brain to find out. See, we were asking, what makes our life so broken up inwardly? What is the root of it? What's the cause of it? If you find the cause, then it's simple to dispel it. You understand? If I find the cause of my disease, then it can be cured, or may not be cured. So I must find the cause. When I find the cause, the effect can be changed. Therefore, cause itself disappears. You understand? We give importance to the cause. Because we see the effects of the cause. Right? But if I understand the cause, why my life is so broken up, so contradictory, so hypocritical, saying so on so. Why? What is the root of it? So I discover that all my life is based on thinking. My gods are the product of my thinking. The rituals, everything is based on thought. Right? You are clear on this? Then, is thought the cause of this? This constant struggle between the broken parts. I want, I don't want. I must not. I must become something, and there is fear in, and so on. You understand? Please see the importance of this. If thought is the cause of this conflict, if that is the cause, contradiction. Living one way and doing actual living, doing thinking something. If thought is responsible for this, then what is life living in which thought doesn't divide? You understood this? Huh? Are we together in this? I see that thought has created nationalism, obviously. Thought has created God. I know, go slowly, you may not agree with this. Thought has created all the rituals, the symbols of religion. The robes, the non-robes, the wanting put on a robe of different color. It's all the product of thinking. So is there a causeless way of living? You understand my question? A living that has no cause. Because the moment you have a cause, it's broken up. Do you understand it? This requires a great deal of inquiry. The cause is now thought. Thought has broken up the world geographically, nationally, religiously. Thought has broken up me separate from you, my soul and your soul. My salvation is through there and your salvation is through there. The activity of thought has produced this. Right? Thought is knowledge, experience, which is the past, movement. So there is nothing sacred in thought. And all the things it creates is not sacred. Now, but you understand what this means? We have worshipped the things that thought has created as sacred. In the east, in the west, in the north, in the south. That is a deception of thought. Thought creates it and then worships it. So there it is. Right away there is the breaking up, the divisive process begun.
The final extract in this episode is from Krishnamurti's 7th talk in Saanen 1961 and is titled Positive and Negative Thinking.
I think it will be necessary to understand what is negative thinking and positive thinking. I am using those two words, negative and positive, not in the opposing senses. Most of us think positively. That is, accumulate, add, and when it is convenient or profitable, subtract. Positive thinking is imitative, conformative, adjusting itself to the pattern of society or to what it desires. And with that positive thinking, most of us are satisfied. To me, such positive thinking leads nowhere. Now, negative thinking is not the opposite of positive thinking. It's quite a different state, quite a different process. And I think one has to understand that clearly before we go any further. That negative thinking is not the opposite of positive thinking. Negative thinking is to denude the mind totally. Negative thinking is to make the brain, which is the repository of reactions, quiet. You know, most of our brain is very active, constantly reacting, and it must react. Otherwise it ceases, it dies. And in its reaction it creates positive processes, which it calls positive thinking, which are all defensive, mechanical. That is, if you have observed your own thinking, you will see it's very simple what I'm talking about. It's not very complicated. So the question is, primary question, is to be fully aware the brain fully aware, sensitive, active, without reacting. And therefore, it is necessary to think negatively. Perhaps we shall discuss this at the end of my talk, what it involves. But if you grasp this, you will see that negative thinking implies no effort. Whereas positive thinking does imply effort. Effort being conflict, in which is involved achievement, suppression, denial. Please watch your own minds in operation, your own brains at work. Don't merely listen to my words. Words have no meaning, no deep significance. Words are merely used to convey, to communicate. But if you remain at the verbal level, you can't go very far. So, as all of us, through education, through culture, through influence of society, religion and so on, are very active, have very active brains, but the totality of the mind is very dull. And to make the brain quiet, and yet fully sensitive, active, but quiet, so that it doesn't cultivate any defenses, which is quite an arduous task, if you have gone into it at all, to be totally, as a brain, tremendously active, but quiet. Which involves, as I was saying, no effort. But for most of us, effort seems to be part of existence. We can't apparently live without effort. Effort to get up in the morning when one feels lazy. Effort to go to school, effort to go to the office. Effort to sustain a continued activity. Effort to love somebody. Our whole life From the moment we are born to the moment we enter the grave, it is a series of efforts. Effort means conflict. And there is no effort at all if you observe the thing as it is, the fact as it is. But we have never observed ourselves as it is, consciously or unconsciously, deeply. We always try to change, substitute, transform, suppress what we see in ourselves. All that implies conflict. And a mind and a brain that is in conflict is never quiet. And we need to think profoundly, to go very deeply, a very quiet brain. Not a dull brain, not a brain that has gone to sleep, not a brain that is drugged by belief, defense, but a brain that is intensely active, but quiet. It is this conflict that makes the totality of the mind dull. So we have to understand from the beginning, if we are to go into this question of meditation, enter profoundly into life, we have to understand conflict and effort. Because our effort is always to achieve, to become great, to be successful, to become something. And therefore there is conflict and frustration with its misery, despair, hope. So what is in conflict all the time becomes dull. Don't we know people who are in perpetual conflict, how dull they are? So, to encompass, to travel very far and very deep, one has to understand completely the question of conflict and effort. Effort, conflict is when there is positive thinking, and when there is negative thinking, which is the highest form of thinking, negative thinking, then there is no conflict, no effort. Now, all thinking is mechanical. All thinking is reaction. It is, thinking comes as a reaction from the background of experience, of memory. Thinking is mechanical. Thinking can never be free. It can be reasonable, sane, logical, depending on its background, on its education, on its conditioning. But thinking can never be free. I do not know if you have experimented with your own thinking. What is thinking? Not the dictionary meaning or a philosopher's idea, but if one observes thinking, is a reaction. Please follow this, because as one has to go into this question. I ask you a familiar question and you respond immediately, because you are familiar with that answer, with what you know. If one asks a more complicated question, there is a time lag, time interval, in which the brain is in operation, looking to memory to find the answer. And if one asks a still more complicated question, the time interval is longer. And during that time interval, the brain is seeking, searching, wanting to find out. And if one asks a question with which you are not familiar, you say, I don't know. But the state of I don't know is a state in which the brain is waiting to find an answer, either by looking through books, asking people, inquiring, but waiting for an answer. This whole process is thinking, which is quite simple. This is what we are all doing. Reaction to the knowledge, to the experience which you have gathered, from which you respond. Now, the state of mind that says, I don't know, and is waiting for an answer, is entirely different from a mind, from a brain which says, I do not know, and is not waiting for an answer. I hope you are following all this. Because if this is not clear, I'm afraid you won't be able to follow the next thing. Because we are still talking about meditation. We are still probing into this whole problem of the brain and the mind. And if one doesn't understand the root of all thought, to go beyond a thought is not possible. So there are two states. The brain that says, I do not know, and is expecting an answer, looking, searching, asking, to find an answer. And there is another state which is a state of not knowing. Because there is no answer.